Volume collection is extremely important in the current volatile market. If before 2 years ago, maybe you wouldn't even think about it, you have your contracted, you have your budgeted, and that is it. Now, when you're trying to incorporate on-site PPAs or off-site PPAs, having the profile on hourly or daily basis is extremely important. Making sure that you have all the data collected in the same place, that there is a correct folder structure, that it's very easy to find that information back. Having a baseline, maybe based on your invoiced volumes, better on metered volumes, so it's per connection level. And another thing that I'd probably mention is having a right definition. Making sure that you're not speaking about the same thing but using different definitions, making sure that finance, sales, procurement, everyone's aware that we're talking about budgeted or forecasted or expected volumes, that everyone is in the same line cross-functionally. So creating an actionable report now is something that comes from C-level day in, day out. What we're really noticing is a lot of times people either take an existing report and just change it up a bit, okay, it's there, but nobody's using it, or they go to different departments and ask for all the possible requirements, and they're creating this really comprehensive report that isn't prompting any actions. So what we would normally do is advise to ask a question. What should that report make me do? What is the action that I should take using that data? So obviously it starts with collecting data, arranging it, making sure that everything is visualized in the correct manner, but also providing it content for that data. The report is 50%. The other 50 comes from 25 from providing content to the data, and another 25 from actually making action. It's very important that your report is actionable, but it's also bringing a story, that it's supporting the historical content or the business decision. To do that is not about reporting just one part, but making sure that there is a story around it. Maybe it's a historical data, maybe it's your prices for the same product 2 years ago. Maybe it's the future data that you're seeing, so making sure that there's a comparison to that data. Another thing to mention is to consider different visuals, not just always use the line chart and the bar chart, but to consider what visual would summarize my story best. Which visual will really bring the content to the numbers. It's very important to identify what are the main factors, what are the main drivers in your invoicing. First thing to do is to make sure that there's an understanding within a business of what we can influence and what we can't influence. So for example, things like regulations, we have no influence on. This comes in from the government or from a governing body, and this is not something we have influence on. But things like contracting, we do, because there's a tender process and we can decide on that. So that also forms the invoice that comes in. Another thing to consider is wholesale prices. We can't affect those. We can't predict those, they're completely unpredictable. But what we can do is define our strategy, making sure that by certain date, a certain period of time, we're 80% hedged or 90% hedged. We can influence our volumes. It's about creating mainly what we can influence and what we can't influence, and also having a definition of commodity and non-commodity.